Hi, my name is Chris, United States Navy veteran, here on Veteran Inc. to share the stories behind my military tattoos. So my first tattoo I got was right out of boot camp. It's on my right bicep. It may be faux pas, but it's my wife's name, who I've been married to for 24 years now. It means a lot. I remember right out of boot camp, our instructor, or RDC, told us, all right guys, you guys are sailors now. What do sailors do? They drink, they fight, and they get tattoos. So when I was done with boot camp, we went on to what we called A school, and it was in Chicago, and there was a line of guys out this tattoo parlor wearing our Cracker Jacks, which is our dress uniform. That one meant the most to me because I knew that I was going to be with my wife, and we've been together for a long time now. The second tattoo is on my right chest. It is a swallow, and that's a deep Navy tradition, meaning that you've traveled 5,000 nautical miles. And the swallow holds a nameplate on it, which is CJ, and that's my son, Christopher Jr. And I wanted to get that to memorialize him because I didn't know if I was going to come back from Iraq. And I do have other tattoos. The third one is on my right calf. This is a caduce, which is essentially the medical symbol with two crossed rifles, meaning medicine and warfare. This is what we wear to distinguish ourselves as being medics to different branches of the service. And the last two tattoos I have are on my right and left thigh. The right thigh is an anchor, which says Georgie. That's my dad's nickname. He was a sailor, he retired as well. And my left thigh is Josephine. And it's what they call a gypsy's head, but it does say Josephine, and that's for my mother. And that's the significance of having all these tattoos. They are near and dear to me, otherwise I wouldn't have gotten them. Every tattoo has a story, and I can always remember where I was and why I got this tattoo. And interesting story, just kind of a side note, I do work in medicine still, and we're kind of at the tail end of World War II veterans, but I had remember that I had met with a patient, and he had this old tattoo on his forearm. And I looked at it, and I realized it was the 1st SEAL team, but back then they were called UDT, Underwater Demolition Teams. And I had said to this gentleman, and I think he did have some type of dementia, but when I asked him, I said, wow, you were a UDT frogman. And he lit up, and he looked at me, and he goes, yeah. And I said, where did you get that tattoo? And he said, in Siam. And this guy was, well into his 80s, and this was a few years back. And the interesting thing is that although he did have some type of altered mental status or dementia, he remembered and he knew exactly what that tattoo meant and where he got it. I never got in trouble for having tattoos because my tattoos were essentially all hidden. With the exception of the one on my calf. Now, the funny story with that is because I was Navy attached to the Marine Corps, we had different grooming standards. So I always had a little bit longer hair and sideburns. Well, Marines had a high and tight haircut. And when we would run or do a unit PT, we had to wear green on green, even though I was in the Navy. That was the uniform of the day. And the only way they could distinguish that I was a sailor was my calf tattoo, which is the medic symbol. So most of the time, you'd have a first sergeant or a gunnery sergeant walking around during battalion formation running, and he would look at me, and I can tell he was gonna light me up, and then he would see like my calf tattoo and say, okay, this is a doc. This is a Navy guy, I can't mess with this guy. I'd probably say the highlight of my military experience was my last deployment in Iraq. I was there from 2006 to 2007 with Alpha Surgical Company. It was a pretty rough time there. Lots of devastation. I was in Al Anbar province. They call it the Sunni Triangle. We were getting it from 3 different fronts: the Mahdi army, Al-Qaeda, and foreign fighters that were coming in from Syria at a place called Al-Qaim. That deployment, it tested me psychologically and physically. We did receive many casualties the entire time I was there. I want to say that deployment lasted for about 8.5 months, but it was the entire time that we were there. It was, work, and work equals saving lives and treating patients. I joined the Navy in December of 1998. I was 19 at the time, and I had gotten out of the service in October of 2008, so 10 years and some change. And you do a lot of maturing, especially pre-9/11. 98, that was still, we weren't engaged in any warfare anywhere. And, 9/11 happens, and that's when things changed. So we went from being a peacetime military to constant deployments and really testing our skills. So the one person that I decided to join the military was for my father. My father, he was the same as I. He was a medic in the Navy, had served in Vietnam, went to various schools, became very successful, retired after 21 or 22 years, went back to work for the government as a civil servant, and then cashed in his chips and completely retired. So if that's a formula for success, being financially stable and stuff like that, I believe I kind of emulated him as far as, following his footsteps. And our family does have a deep naval tradition, and it goes back to about World War II. The military was what I envisioned before joining. I knew it was a rough and tumble being in the Navy, but more specifically being with the Marines. It's the experience. It's a hell of a wake-up call, and if you aren't ready for it, then it'll knock you on your ass. But as a young man full of testosterone, this is probably what I needed, and it was fun, and you got to shoot things and do all this crazy stuff, and that's kind of what young boys kind of envision.